An interesting development today with balloons. Yes, that's right, balloons, not the type you use for birthdays and celebrations, but we're talking about surveillance balloons. Now, I'm going to break down what has happened here and give you a little bit of insight as to what this means between the relationship of China and the US. I've been talking about that relationship for years, wrote about it in my first book and second book, and have been talking about it ever since because this is integral to the global economy as well as what will happen here and beyond. Let's begin by taking a look at what we know happened at this point. The US downs Chinese balloon, prompting protests from Beijing. And this was interesting because it had been known for about a week prior to its appearance over Montana, and apparently they chose this moment in time to take it down. They took it down off the coast of South Carolina. You could see no US advance warning to China on plan to shoot down the balloon. Now, I'm not sure what they were thinking to begin with. We can speculate. Here you can see it is shot down off the coast of South Carolina with a single missile. They used an F-22 Raptor. That's important as well, just showing that they eventually did take action because many people were saying, what are they waiting for? What is this balloon doing? Why is it here? A lot of questions around that, of course, and some say that this was being done as a spy balloon. That's the way it's being reported. Others are saying that this was an accident. There's a lot of questions, and ultimately we're never going to know, but we do have some information here that I wanted to bring to you. Downing of the Chinese spy balloon is the first time military has shot down foreign aircraft over US soil since WW2. Now, there was some interesting things that happened. Let's talk about 2001 that maybe we'll leave it there. There was a whole bunch of planes that were flying around. If you remember that, kind of a few planes that didn't land in the proper spots. Let's just say that. They were also let to fly around, if you remember. Another Chinese spy balloon is spotted. Mystery surveillance device floated over Costa Rica before reaching Venezuela, according to the Pentagon. So these things are happening. It's not just in one area. This isn't just one factor, and who knows what this is really all about. But it is interesting. Route of the Chinese spy balloons hovering over the west. And you could see right here, number 1 is the red line, and that has gone from Alaska through Canada, then Montana, and all the way through and out. And then, of course, South Carolina, they took it down. The Chinese weather balloon is thought to fly at up to 120,000 feet. It's got solar panels, they've got the payload and the instruments on board, and they say that these can take some very detailed images. What people are concerned about with this is that it can actually have the ability to do an EMP attack, and that would basically wipe out all the electronics. I do think, this is my personal opinion, that it's a lot easier for the Chinese side to just go in, type a couple buttons into their computers and do that from, using the cyber warfare much better than this way where, people can literally look up and see the balloon. But that's a different story. We don't know what happened here. We can speculate, certainly. China's high-altitude surveillance balloon, you could see the specs, large balloon filled with helium, powered by solar panels, surveillance equipment including camera sensors and radars. So just to give you a comparison here, a commercial airline would fly, let's say, at 40,000 feet, but the spy balloon is at 120,000 feet. And that just gives us a little bit of an insight as to, where these things are. And you could look at the flight path. And this is something that could happen over and over and over and over again. These things could be all over the place if they decide to do that. Apparently, they can control, just by changing the altitude, they can have a lot of control over these balloons. It's not something that is just flying in the wind. They can have quite a bit of control with it, and they're able to do whatever kind of surveillance they need to, and potentially even more. But again, we don't know if this was necessarily an accident or not. You have to decide for yourself. Okay, that's not what I do here. Video shows the moment an F-22 shot down the Chinese spy balloon over the Atlantic Ocean, and you could see it right there for yourself in this image. If you want to check the video, you may have seen it already, but that's what we get. China responded that it reserved the right to take further actions and criticized the US for an obvious overreaction and serious violation of international practice. China will resolutely uphold the relevant company's legitimate rights and interests, and at the same time reserving the right to take further actions in response. So I don't know what they're going to do. I really don't. But they're claiming, hey, this was all innocent. This was nothing. It wasn't us spying on anything. We are not doing that. That's what China is saying. The US is saying, hey, this is a spy balloon, and we eventually took action and took it down. So this is going to create additional tensions. In the left-hand corner, China has expressed its strong dissatisfaction and protest against the decision, accusing the US of overreacting and seriously violating international practice. Now, I'm not so sure of what's going to come of it necessarily, but it's just one more thing on top of the other, which we'll get into in a moment. Apparently the Navy had anticipated having to recover debris in deeper water, but landed at a depth of about 47 feet, which will make it fairly easy to want to recover all of this and try to get to the bottom of what exactly this thing was. An operation is now underway to recover the debris from the balloon, which had been flying at about 60,000 feet. So I guess it has the potential for 120,000 feet, but it was at 60,000 feet. People were looking up and they were spotting it. They were able to take pictures of it and videos of it and so on. Looking at this, an example, many people had asked the question, why? Why can't they just shoot it down? Why aren't they shooting it down? Well, this is one example in history. I like to bring you the data, right? Well, here. Shooting down balloons has proved difficult in the past. In 1998, for example, Canadian, British, and US fighter jets unsuccessfully attempted to shoot down a rogue weather balloon that had forced passenger flights to divert. And they apparently, I don't know if it's in this article, I was reading several of them, basically saying that they pumped it with like 1,000 rounds and it just wasn't coming down. Why? Because it's a balloon, right? It's not as if it's something that's solid. It took like a week, literally a week for it to come down. So these are the type of things that we need to take into account. It's not just, hey, let's shoot that thing down. This is not a normal occurrence, okay? So that's just one aspect of it. I'm just trying to highlight that, why maybe they delayed it. That's what the Pentagon said. If you do take something like that down, where does it land exactly? This isn't something that, could be understood. There's so many things happening at that altitude by the time it makes it down that could present a danger as well. I'm sure they knew about this thing a week ago. They knew what was going to happen. I really think it was a test. Personally, that's just my thoughts. I think this whole thing was a test, maybe from both sides, to see, hey, are they going to really let this happen? And China's saying, maybe we should test this. Who knows? I have some other things that I wanted to highlight here. And, you look at what's happening with the semiconductors. This is the most recent battle between the US and China. We've been looking at the two sides more recently, in recent years, the tariff war, how many different things have been happening between these two countries. It's been truly extreme, and that's not a good thing. We don't want to see the two sides battle. We want to see talks. We want to see progress. And yet, one thing after another, they keep piling up. So that's the chips, by the way. Let me go back to that. That was just talking about supply chain and the semiconductors being an issue, a big issue, in fact. So you can look at that and you see Japan and the Netherlands, they're basically saying, yes, we want to do the same thing US is doing, and that is we want to not supply China with the latest technology for semiconductors. We want to make sure that they cannot advance themselves, the country as a whole, but what they claim to be focused on specifically is their national security, aka the defense, aka weapons. A potential US ban on investment in Chinese tech, they talk about, hurting particular sectors. But that's another thing. So the US is trying to ban TikTok. They're trying to ban all these different things for different reasons. They don't want the spying that's taking place. They don't want also a lot of the concerns. Look at what happened with Alibaba and all these other stocks that are in the US as well. And then suddenly tomorrow they say, no, we're banning this, we're stopping this, we're regulating this, we're doing that. So China has a lot of control over the money that's invested, even on the US side, through these companies as well. So I'm interested to see how much action is taken. And I really believe that this is something that is probably going to get more heated rather than cooled down over the years. The companies holding the most AI patents, Tencent, Baidu, are on the top of the list. That should give us a little bit of insight as to where, just looking at these AI patents, that's, AI is such a broad term. Sometimes it really doesn't mean artificial intelligence at all. But I think it's important to see where the technology is moving and who's spending the money. Where is the research and development going? And you could see in these cases right here, some of the biggest companies in the world, Tencent and Baidu, are ahead in that regard in terms of the total number. Anyway, and then we've got Blinken postponing the China trip as balloon over the U.S. fuels tensions. China's surveillance balloon in U.S. airspace is unacceptable and a violation of sovereignty, according to Washington. That's important as well because you can see with the whole Nancy Pelosi going to Taiwan, there's so much that's happening between these two countries, of course, over Taiwan, but also all the other things since the tariff war and beyond that really don't look good right now at this time. And then we've got this: thousands mistake U.S. research balloon for Chinese spy craft. So now, of course, we're going to get these coming out probably, and every balloon that's in the sky will be thought of as, the potential, hey, is it China spying on us? We got to be careful with that, of course. We want to know the truth. We want to know what's really happening. I'd be interested in knowing your thoughts about this. Was it a test? Why did they know about it 1 week in advance and didn't do anything about it at the same time? I really think regardless, I just look at the economic side of it, and that's the only reason I bring this to you, is that these two countries right here are at odds, and that is picking up. And I think that it's going to, create a lot of tension and headache for the global economy as well. So let me know your thoughts, put them in the comments below, and of course, I'll see you tomorrow.